As a mother of boys, what were some of the challenges that you faced when they were young and through their teen years as well?
Yeah.
And what do we need to do what do we need to understand about boys and raising boys?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge was gaining the confidence to be able to advocate for them despite their behaviors. In other words, inevitably, there were times in their lives when they did things that were yucky, right? Like they talked to somebody in a way that wasn't nice, they behaved towards somebody in a way that wasn't nice, treated somebody poorly. And I needed to figure out a way to advocate for their right to make mistakes and for their right to have an opportunity to reconcile and not just be labeled the bad kid or be shamed or punished for the behavior, but to advocate for there to be a learning opportunity and for relationships to be number one. So that was the hardest thing, because it's hard to have that confidence when everybody around you is saying, no, something's wrong with him. He needs this kind of thing. He needs to go to a therapist. He needs this, like, we're going to kick him out of school. He can't do X, Y, or Z. And it's terrifying. And you feel guilty and you feel ashamed and like you did something wrong, or like something might be terribly wrong with your child. I think we have a tendency as a society, for sure in the United States, I don't know if this is true in India as well, you can tell me, but in the United States, we definitely have this pattern where if a girl is struggling, we tend to blame the systems around her, right? The society, the culture, the school. And if a boy is struggling, we tend to blame him. Something is wrong with him. And so as a parent of boys, it's this constant fight to advocate for him and say, like, wait, maybe it's not him. Maybe this school environment isn't a place that's conducive to learning for him. Maybe he has more energy and he needs to move more. Maybe he's not bad because he can't sit still. Maybe the environment isn't suitable. Maybe we need to rethink what a classroom looks like, or how much recess we give these boys and girls, right? Everybody. Maybe we need to re-examine these policies that we have in schools where we punish kids by taking off recess, by taking off time from their free time, their playtime during the day. So I think like that was really the hardest thing for me in raising my boys.
The other challenge is, how do we raise boys to respect themselves and to respect women in particular? Because you hear of so much aggression by boys or men against women. So how do we, raise boys to ensure that that doesn't happen?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. This is probably one of the questions that I most focus my work on. My work really does mainly focus on young boys who are struggling with aggression. I work with their families, and I was thinking about this today. As I was working with a couple who have a 5-year-old. He actually does quite well out in the world and at school. He's functioning really well, but at home, he's very explosive and he will, hurt himself, bang his head on the wall. He'll hurt his baby brother. He'll be, violent towards his parents, kicking, hitting, that type of a thing. And one of the most important things, like, I started working with them and I was ready to, teach them all these parenting tools. And I realized that they weren't ready yet because they were so scared that the energy that they were bringing to him was one of worry, was one of, you are the problem child, you are what's wrong with this family, you are making our life miserable. Now, of course, they love this child and they want things to go better, but they're just worn down. They've tried so many things and they don't know what to do. And so one of the most important things is that we have to do our own emotional healing such that we are not afraid of our little guys. We need to not be afraid even of the aggression, because when a boy is acting aggressively, he's doing so from a place of fear. It's really fear in disguise. And if we answer that with our own fear, right? He's like, his brain is going like, I'm totally terrified. I need to borrow your brain to calm down. And then his brain meets mine, and I'm going like, oh my goodness, like, what is wrong with you? I can't deal with this. Then he goes, oh my gosh, they also think, my parents also think something's really wrong. Something really must be wrong. And then we get into this spiral downwards, and he gets more scared and his behavior gets worse. The aggression explodes. So even before we start implementing, or at least alongside implementing, proactive, connective parenting tools, the tools that we talk about in Listen, we have to do our emotional work so that we're not so scared. And here's the deal, is like, most women, I can speculate, again, I don't know a lot about the statistics in India, but I can just say, I can speculate that worldwide, most women have had a negative experience, whether that be physically, sexually, emotionally, usually by a man. And we carry those hurts with us. And when we've got a young boy, even if he's 5 and he acts out in this way, if he's particularly loud or physical, that can trigger us. And we forget, this isn't my high school boyfriend, or this isn't, my chemistry teacher who was belittling to me. This is my 5-year-old son who I love, right? Our limbic system, our emotional center of our brain is just like, not safe, not safe, not safe, and we react. So we really do have to do our own healing in order to not be scared, because we need to come to our boys, the ones who are struggling too, with this attitude of, we are going to get through this. I love you, sweet boy, and we are going to get through this. They need that. They need that energy and that perspective in order to receive our help. Right? It's like, I like to use a plain example. I fly a lot, but I'm terrified of flying. I hate it. And so when there's turbulence, I look to the flight attendant. I'm borrowing their brain. I'm looking for calm, right? If I look over there and they're scared, my fear goes through the roof. But if I look over there and they're just sort of bumping along and asking somebody if they want coffee or sugar in their coffee or whatever, my brain calms. Right? We need to be that calm brain, that calm in the storm for our little guy who's struggling. So building that confidence that he's going to be okay. There's nothing terribly wrong with him. The likelihood of him, being the next school shooter or or a rapist or a murderer or setting off a bomb somewhere, even though this is what we're seeing in the media all the time, the likelihood of that happening to him is very, very small. And if we move in when he's little with connection, the likelihood is minuscule, teeny, teeny, tiny, right? Because we're answering his struggle with love. We're spending one-on-one time with him. We're carving out time in our days to follow his lead with special time that we talk about in the book, right? We're listening to his big emotions. We're staying and listening to his big emotions instead of sending him away and shaming him for showing his struggle. We're using play strategically. We're getting silly with him to build connection, not taking his behaviors towards us seriously. Right? When he says, I hate you, we don't go, oh my God, my son, he hates me. He doesn't hate you. He's upset about something. Let's not take that personally so that we can be playful. And then lastly, we have to get really, really good at setting loving limits. Our boys need limits. They need us to hold limits around what they're capable of doing. You talk about boys being kings and like not being responsible for doing anything in the house. We can hold limits around that. We can assign chores to them, and we can lovingly hold out expectations that they are going to participate. And I think we need to do that if we want them to grow up and have a meaningful role in their own family. Because I can't think of any women who would want to be married to a man who would just sort of sat back like a king and didn't help, didn't participate. That does not sound fun.
So, I mean, you talk about connection a lot, right? So some tips for parents on how we can build these connections, whether it be a boy or a girl. How do we go about building this connection with our children?
So I mentioned a tool called Special Time that we talk about in Listen. And I would say if you're new to this work, that's the place to start. And what it is a special kind of one-on-one time where you have one parent and one child, or you can have more parents and one child, but you can only have one child. And you name it whatever you want to name it. You can call it special time. You can call it something in your own language. It doesn't matter. It just needs a name. You time it. So you're doing this for a certain amount of time. And when you're starting out, I would suggest you do it for a very short amount of time, because your job is to say, I've got 5 minutes for special time. We can do whatever you want. And maybe you start out with 5 minutes or 10 minutes. As you get good, it might be a half an hour or an hour. But start out small, because when you give your kids that freedom, sometimes they will move towards things either that they know you don't like doing, or aren't generally allowed in your house. So something like maybe I like to use the example, maybe you're very conscious about food waste. You don't waste food in your house. And during special time, they want to make some concoction in the kitchen where, they use ingredients that they're going to go in the garbage, right? They put food coloring and sugar and egg and dog food. And, I don't know what they put in it, but it's going to go in the garbage in the end. Nobody's going to eat it. So our job is really to be pleased with the child during special time. They get to do what they want. We are completely non-distracted. We put away our phones and not responsible for any other kids. We're not waiting for, a package to come to the door or anything like that. We're all in. And so if we want to time it, because if you're a no food waste family and they're wanting to create some concoction in the kitchen, you've got to be pleased with it. And if the timer is going to go off in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, you can do that. If you have no idea when this is going to end and you're worried that everything in your kitchen is going to go into this cake that's going to go into the garbage, it's going to be really hard for you to be pleased with that child. So you name it, you time it, and then you basically follow their lead. And one of the cool things about it is that it really kind of turns on its head the general situation for kids, which is, at least in the States, I'm assuming in India as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but mostly it's adults telling them what to do from the moment they get up in the morning until they go to sleep at night, right? It's get ready for school, it's get dressed, it's eat your food, do your homework, time for, football practice, whatever it is. And so this turns everything on its head. They're the boss, right? So if they say, I want you to jump on the bed with me, guess what? You have to jump on the bed with them, and you have to be thrilled about it. And it's great because it super, super builds connection. It builds connection. It makes them feel like, wow, my mom, my dad is willing to put everything else in their life away, push it to the side, and just pay attention to me for this period of time. I'm special. They love me. They want to be with me. And one side effect that often happens is that a child will show you, it's like a window into their world. So a child will show you where they're struggling. If you've got a child who's struggling with their behaviors, are showing you that they're struggling because their behaviors are, what we'd label bad or troublesome. Oftentimes, if you do regular special time, they might engage in play that gives you a clue as to why they're struggling, or they might, depending on their age, even share some information with you about why they're struggling. They might not. It's not like you're trying to fish for that information, but it is a common side effect, if you will, of taking the time to pour your love and your undivided attention into your child. So that would be the place to start for newbies. So if you've got a young boy or a not so young boy and you're looking to start on this journey of helping him build his emotional intelligence and just really strengthen your connection with him, if you go to my website, parentingboyspeacefully.com, you will see a link to a 10-day reconnect. And that will bring you to 10 days of really, really simple actions that you can take to start either mending your connection with your sweet boy if you feel like it's kind of broken a little bit, or strengthen it. If you feel like it's good, great, let's just strengthen it a little bit more. It will guide you into the creating a regular practice of special time. So that's parentingboyspeacefully.com/reconnect. I wanted to say one thing, because I think you asked me about, as they move into their teenage years, and I just wanted to share a little story to illustrate the, what I mean by the importance of connection and the benefits that it can give you. And it's really sort of like, investing in the stock market. You don't invest in the stock market for a day or even a week, right? It's a long-term relationship. Otherwise, you lose, generally speaking. So, investing this type of time in your child really does pay off in dividends. And I remember when my oldest was in high school, he's now in college, but when he was in high school, he came home one day and he said to me, "Ima, I think I'm the only kid who doesn't lie to their parents." And I thought to myself, oh, well, this is interesting, right? And it's not because I'm any, better than anybody else, but I truly do believe that it's because I made very clear from a very early age that I'm not scared of you. There's nothing you can say or do that will push me away. I've got your back. Not any behavior is okay. That's not what I said, but I've got your back. I will help you through. I will help you take responsibility when you need to take responsibility, but I'm here with you. I've got your back. I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to, punish you. I want there to be open communication. And that's what we had. That's what we had. And that's what I have with my other ones as well. And that's what I see in the parents that I work with. When they start these tools, when their child's younger, they have an amazing connection in the teen years. People say, oh my gosh, I'm so scared going into the teen years. For me, I love the teen years. They're so fun. The boys are so fun. It's so much easier than when they were younger, because we've invested so much time in our connection. We have such a strong bond. Not that there's no bumps, not that it's perfect. I don't want anybody to think that. Yes, we have our rough spots for sure. But overall, like I said, the early connection and the continued connection will make the teenage years amazing, much less contentious, and hopefully will help you have what I think we all want, which is a lifelong, deep, connected relationship with our children.